Despite what the clock in council chamber says, I think it's time to start city council meeting. So let's open the meeting for Tuesday, May 17th, 2022. If we can start with a moment of meditation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Gank, you please call the roll for us?
Mr. Farrell.
Here.
Ms. Nenny. Here. Mr. Moon.
Here.
Mr. Muederspaw.
Here.
Mayor Condrey.
Here. Okay, this evening we'll start with citizen comments. We only have one of those from Kenzie Bruns. If you'll come on up to the dais, state your name and address for the record, and we'd love to hear you for 3 minutes.
Great, that was quick. Kenzie Bruns. I live on South Highview, 412 South Highview, Middletown, Ohio. So I just wanted to bring something to your guys' attention. I won't take up a whole lot of time, but I have a run club here in town. We start at Spoken Bicycles, and we run down Central. We get on the bike path, and then we take that back way. It goes across Carmody and down. It goes into Smith Park. So it kind of runs by these trees and then into Smith Park. You probably know exactly where it is. So there has been a growing issue with like an encampment that's in those trees there for the past couple years. This year it seems to have gotten really bad, really fast. I know it just got warm, but last Tuesday, we run on Tuesdays. Last Tuesday, we had two big, kind of look like pit bull mixed dogs come running out of the trees after us, me and a group of girls I was running with. And they didn't bite us or anything, but they were growling at us. And when we stopped running, they kind of ran back into the trees. They obviously weren't on leashes. We have runners that run with their dogs as well. So we had to run back as quickly as we could and tell them to like, turn around. So that kind of was like the turning point for me to just come here and kind of bring that to your attention, because now we're feeling like we're gonna have to start avoiding Smith Park because it's just not safe. I've had some other issues at Smith Park in the past couple years, just with me and my husband own a running business, so we have races there a lot. Cones and things getting stolen back in that area and signs. So we're just feeling like it's not very safe. We've had to run with other girls. We don't think girls should run by themselves back there. So starting this week, we're going to like change our route and not run that way, but I don't want that to be a permanent change. So just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you. Are you talking about the encampment that's right along Carmody on the bike path? Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
down, yeah.
I did walk in there recently. I'm sure our COP units are I know they're aware of it because I see them there all the time. So we'll see what we can do about that. And I know it's not the city's property. However, that is definitely a concern for visitors and residents alike. So
Yeah, it's getting a little sketchy.
yeah.
So, all right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that brings us to our council comments next. We'll start with Mr. Farrell.
Prayers for Buffalo. City very similar to us, kind of old industrial manufacturing, so I can see a lot of Middletown there, so just prayers for them, and that's about it for me. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks. Ms. Nenny?
Thank you. Kenzie, I just want to say thank you for all that you guys do and bringing people to our parks and bringing people to our city. And I know you guys put on a lot of really great events. So thank you for all of that. And hopefully we can get that area cleaned up. I know not just for your group, but I mean, many groups who use that connector path have complained about over the years. So hopefully that's something we can help remedy. And then the only other thing I wanted to add was a thank you to all of the volunteers and organizers of the Atrium Gala. That was a beautiful event on Saturday night, and it was a nice opportunity to talk with people who support Middletown and want to continue supporting Middletown. So thank you to all of those organizers, and thank you to them for the invitation.
Thank you. Mr. Moon.
Yes, I'll just echo what Zach and Monica said and leave it at that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Meterspaw.
Yeah, congratulations to Ashley Combs, part of our management staff. She had her baby, and she sent a picture of it. It's really cute. But we're excited to get her back, and she's such a key part of what we do. Also, great job by Chief Burke and his staff for the K-9 event in town. I mean, I've seen sheriff's cars and from everywhere. How many you got, Chief? How many you got? 35? Yeah, the K-9 regionals are here, and it's just an amazing thing that we're the hub for that. It's really cool. Kinsey, I see you guys run all the time. I mean, there's like 40, and you all look happy, which I don't understand because you're all running. But it's really cool. But you guys really do have a running group. I mean, it's packed with people, so I'm sure we can help get that fixed for you. Yeah. And last thing is thanks to the citizens for the support on the fire levy. I mean, we badly needed the stations. And I know with inflation as it is and gas prices crazy and everything, it's really good to see that people still came out and supported our fire department that just do such a good job and support something we really need. So congrats to the fire department for all you guys do. Thank you.
Well said.
Do we want to go run with them and kind of check it out?
I'll drive and watch them. Bring them back.
Just to dovetail on Councilmember Meterspaw, if you're dealing anything illegal in Middletown this week, it is not the week to do that. So lots of canines. So thank you for bringing that to town. Very well done. And just as a reminder, Monday, May 30th is Memorial Day Parade. Parade kicks off from Smith Park at 10 a.m. I believe the ceremony is at 11:30 at Woodside. In fact, I believe our very own Rick McCrapp is the master of ceremonies for that. So that's pretty cool. Thanks for joining our community with that. And I just wanted to express gratitude to Butler County. They're really coming to the table as a great partner with us and working on a lot of things to include our paperboard demolition. It looks like they're going to support us there, whatever it takes in some capacity. I know they asked Chief to come back with an updated cost estimate for that, which I anticipate at some point he will drop that number on the table, and hopefully we'll be able to work with Butler County and get that paperboard cleared out and ready for something new and amazing. So that's all I have this evening. And that brings us to city manager reports.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and members of City Council. I can give you a little bit of an update on the updated figure. It's I can tell you it's adding about $1 million. So we're going from 2.4 to 3.4. So we have to compile some other information they requested, and then we'll soon be getting the report back to them. But like everything else, the inflation, that's a significant increase, and those were I'll get that to you tomorrow in a report, and that's the numbers Burgess and Nyepel came back with late this afternoon. With that, first thing on city manager's report is we want to bring to you an update on the small business grant program, and Nathan K. Hall, our assistant city manager, has come forward and wants to present that to you. We're looking for feedback. Not necessarily, I know you'll need some time to digest it. It was in your packet, but certainly give us some feedback this week so we can get the grant program back out and rolling for our business leaders. Nathan?
Thank you, Paul. Mayor, members of council. So included in your packet tonight was a kind of an overview sheet and report of the proposed revamped small business grant program. And the genesis of this revamp, as you all know, was based on the gathered feedback during the council retreat back in February, where you folks had the opportunity to give some really good, candid feedback on how you all thought, from a policy standpoint, the city should invest best in the development and expansion of our small businesses across the community. And so, based on that feedback, and in generality as well, council expressed a desire to pinpoint and have targeted investment in certain types of items and needs of these applicants, instead of it just being kind of a more wide open gambit. And so in terms of eligible uses, in listening to your folks' discussions in February, this grant program would target certain professional service needs of new businesses looking to locate. So that's hiring an architect to design some building plans, or you're moving into some place that needs sprinklers or an ADA compliant entrance or restrooms or the like, to assist in those types of matters. Certain business related equipment. And also building improvements, which had always traditionally been something that the city had seen value in investing in. Even, if unfortunately if a business enters into a new building, or an existing building, I should say, and, a few years from now they're no longer there, at least the city has a building that's been brought up to code and has been updated that maybe is more turnkey for the next business concern. As you'll see here, there's a little matrix in that cover sheet that shows also the limits for those categories of investment by the city. And in listening to council's feedback, looking at this program being more on a reimbursement basis, and also for certain professional services to have direct payment to those professional service providers on behalf of the city. Through the cooperative agreement, to make sure that obviously those bills are paid and those activities are consummated to the finish line. What's also important is that as we continue to vet applicants through this program and others, is to make sure that the applicant and their business concern is adequately developed, planned, and also capitalized to a certain degree. And so you'll notice that there are hard, not only percentage caps, but also hard dollar caps for reimbursement of those funds. There's no magic behind this, but we're throwing out an eligibility qualifier of a business that has 35 or fewer employees to qualify them as a small business. And that they had not received other grant or other assistance from the city in the last 24 months. I think that's something that staff had heard previously, that there may have been business interests that were, in front of you folks with requests more frequently than not. We also talk about things that are not eligible. So we're not looking at prepaying a business's rent or purchasing inventory or the like for those just on a general operating expenditures. And we're laying out more of a mapped out application process that requires the applicants to obviously not only meet with economic development staff in the office, but to also hit some other benchmarks along the way. Most notably is to interact with our SBDC office here in the city to make sure that they have a well thought out business plan and other items in place before really you folks are presented with some sort of decision point. The other unique thing that I'd like to point out here, what's being proposed in this program, is to actually take the Economic Development Department out of the process of scoring and evaluating the applications, and have that department be more of a facilitator and a coordinator of gathering the information, but provide it to a scoring committee. We're working on the exact roster of that one, but we do envision that maybe an SBDC representative from that office, perhaps finance, development services, public works, that they're not really living and breathing or close to the application, and they maybe can provide a more objective scoring assessment of those applications. But to basically take the Economic Development Department and their staff that are directly interacting with the applicants, have them a step away from the ultimate evaluation process. But with that, I know there's a lot to digest here. As Mr. Lawley said, the hope tonight was to gather any maybe remaining feedback. Obviously, it's not, speak now or forever hold your peace. There's still some time here, but our druthers and recommendation would be to proceed with something revamped along these lines here, probably before the end of the month, if at all possible. But obviously, you folks are in charge. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So just to clarify and confirm, so the grants that were already, the application grants that were already done the last year, those are void, and we're starting fresh?
So the applicants that had already been awarded a grant agreement by council, those are still in full force and effect. There are, as I understand it, as I'm inheriting some files in the office, there might be 2 or 3 applications that are still sitting there pending that were maybe submitted towards the very end of last year, early first quarter of this year, that have been currently postponed, awaiting some revamp of the program.
Nathan, are there going to be opening and closing, times, or is it first come, first serve, or?
So there was internal discussion on this one at a staff level of, we've seen programs like this. There's a lot of funding programs that have a funding cycle that maybe there's a first and second quarter, first part of the year funding cycle, then an end of half of the year. I think the recommendation from staff is that this be an ongoing open process, with the understanding that we're looking at these maybe on a monthly cycle, so that we don't artificially segregate budgeted dollars for these purposes and say, okay, we may have a couple a couple more projects in the first half of the year that score really well, makes sense, but yet, oh no, we have to wait till the second half of the year. So the thought was to just keep that going on on an ongoing basis, obviously budgeted dollars being available as well.
Do we have an approximate amount of money we're looking to spend each year on this?
And I am remiss because I used to remember these things, and I just magically left my brain the other day when I moved offices. But Samantha, correct me if I'm wrong, I think for these we budget about $50,000. I think $50,000, although I believe there's the potential, I think, with some consideration of some ARPA dollars and the like, that would go up a little bit more, maybe in the next 2 years, if that's your druthers, but that hasn't been determined yet.
I don't, just one other, first of all, I think it's well done, a big improvement. Thank you for taking everything we said into consideration. The SBDC part, I'm curious about where that plays into the application and how they play into, the follow-up. Maybe I missed it, but I don't see that specifically.
And that might be, and I apologize, Your Honor, that actually might be something that we have on the intake form, and maybe not as part of this summary sheet. I've looked at so many iterations of this over the last couple of weeks. Yes, that would be actually on our intake form. That would be something that would be part of the scoring matrix.
Okay, and what are we expecting out of them as far as interaction with SBDC? And because I believe that they really should be our focal point for small businesses.
Totally agree.
We pay into them. They also do a great job with it. They know all the the ins and outs.
So what we're looking for, what staff envisions is as we assess these applications, is that we have a business that, and it's going to be different for maybe an existing business versus a brand new entry into the Middletown market. But we're looking at, there's a solid kind of mapped out business plan that's been reviewed by the SBDC office, looking at also not just what is being asked of the city in terms of assistance, but also there are other funding sources lined up or in the process of being lined up for that, to make sure that that the business, once they enter into an agreement with the city, can fulfill their pledges. Also looking at things like, it's part of the business plan, but things like how they envision their management structure, their legal structure, is it a sole proprietorship, is it an LLC, those types of things, just to make sure that they've thought through and vetted those types of considerations.
I wouldn't mind seeing something in here that requires them to have a formalized meeting with SBDC once a quarter or something, while they, have for a certain amount of time, I know it's easy for a small business to get focused on its day-to-day operations, but I think it's a way to help them kind of keep on track and
That's a
make
good
sure
point.
our investment is being well.
At the very least, just a follow-up, even if it was a year afterwards or something, just to check in on them and make sure, because, like you were saying, some businesses after 3 years aren't even still around. So how do we make sure that we're continuing to support that business? Maybe it's on an annual basis.
Yeah, and I
a
would
good
defer
point.
to David Riggs really, or SBDC, on what he thinks, how the frequency of that might be. And maybe it would depend on the type of grant and what that is. But even for an existing business, I would want that, because we're investing in them and I want to make sure we help them.
For me, it depends on the threshold of the investment, right? If it's something under $1,000, we're hoping an established business buy a new piece of equipment or something. I don't know if that requires a follow-up. I'm just to talk through that a little bit.
I know I always have something to learn every day, so I think it should
Sure.
personally, but.
Yeah. And then Nathan, if you have a pretty good copy of that intake form that you guys feel comfortable with, I would love to see that as
Yeah,
well.
I think we should have it all wrapped up probably by the end of
Yeah.
the week.
I figured if you had it, you would have.
Paul and his weekly update to you can forward that along. Yeah, we can do that.
We'll get it to you ASAP.
Definitely a huge improvement in this.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys.
Really good job.
Has legal looked at any of this yet?
Yeah, Mr. Yoder, I think, was forwarded maybe about a week or so ago. Just hasn't had a chance to weigh in yet.
Okay.
But, verbally, our discussions were this looked pretty good, but you wanted to look
Looking at the requirements, it's very thorough, but I think that it's very attainable for any small business that's really got their ducks in a row and would be eligible for this to be able to apply. So
It's kind of businesses
all
we
that.
want to do business with. Appreciate your guys' work behind this. I mean, I know this was, when Paul stepped up, this was one of the first things you guys wanted to attack, and it's great to see all the things that we've sort of been talking about coming out now, so it's exciting.
Yeah, Nathan, Elena, Jake, and Debbie did just a fantastic job on this. I just told them to do it.
And I think you can see the collaboration in it, that it brings in different departments and really brings together different, sort of different people from around the building into one project. So I appreciate that.
Any other questions? Okay, second up on the city manager's report is an update on the Hills development and DR Horton. So DR Horton will be presenting us with an alternate design for the Hills development in the next day or so, we have been told. With that, council will have two options. Option number one will be to consider the alternate design. And if so, we will schedule a new public hearing at the June 7th council meeting solely on the alternate design. So the public comments must be limited to the design change. If you choose this option, we'll need a motion to reopen the public hearing for June 7th. We'll need that tonight. And when we get the alternate design from DR Horton, we'll set up a meeting prior to June 7th to give the neighborhood group an opportunity to see it. Option two, if you choose to not consider the alternate design, then it will be up to DR Horton whether or not to have the original plans on a June 7th vote, or they can withdraw their proposals completely. That's all I have. Feedback, comments?
Have we seen the alternate design yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Hopefully within the next couple days.
So how do we know whether to host a public hearing or not? Or maybe I'm confused about the process.
It's just a matter of, do you want to look at alternate design? I mean, I don't see a problem with that. I mean, it's not that you have to accept the alternate design, but we want to get this moving so we can move it through
One way or
June
the other.
7th, and then if you so choose, the alternate design or the original to at least be able to vote on at the second meeting in June.
So if we're all amenable, then we would see an alternative plan from DR Horton at the next meeting, at which at which point the neighborhood has an opportunity to weigh in the public hearing. And then at that point, determine whether we want to move forward with that design or another design or a different alternative.
If they bring us more than one alternative, then yeah, it's my understanding they're only going to bring us one alternative.
They weren't pigeonholed.
What's that?
They didn't say specifically one.
Okay. They didn't say if they were
We
bringing
have
one
an
or two
opportunity open to
alternatives.
have that conversation with them about a new design.
Yes,
But then we'll get it sometime this week. We don't have to wait till the next meeting.
that's what we've been advised by D.R. Horton, yes.
And the neighborhood will also have access to that design before the public hearing so that they have an opportunity to take a look at it.
Okay, they might not have it until next week.
But we'll have time to let the neighborhood and
I'm open to allowing them
Yeah,
to see if some.
yeah, absolutely, we are going to have a meeting, and I think D.R. Horton is obliged to, said they're obliged to do that too, to have a meeting in the neighborhood so they let people know what that alternate design or designs may be. So that's what before, do we consider an alternate design?
I'd like to see it.
I mean,
what's the downside?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't see a downside, but that's a decision we've been directed from legal that has to be made.
Because we have to reopen the public hearing.
Yes,
and Planning Commission approved a planned development area, not specifically the design of the planned development.
Well, at that meeting, because I was
Yeah.
at that planning commission meeting, they were presented with two different plans. Their recommendation, because they only ever make a recommendation to us, was to move forward with the plan that was recommended to us. That's my understanding of how that all happened.
Because the last thing I want to do is take planning and zoning out of the picture, and, you know, of course, their opinion is valid too. So I just want to make sure we're not overstepping and like going around discussions that not having them with planning and zoning.
well, I think council
recommended a plan.
can make changes at any time to the planning's recommendation, as long as it stays within this PUD.
So I guess then my request would be that we specifically, when we get the new design from D.R. Horton, that we email it to planning and zoning members, just so they're aware, so that they can come to the public hearing, just because I value them as,
Sure.
Yeah,
If they have
absolutely.
any feedback to provide, I would be
Yeah,
happy to receive.
we need to be as
that well.
transparent as we can on this, because, you know, staff, and I'm sure you are too, and the church and D.R. Horton, everybody wants, you know, everybody to be informed so the right decision can be made.
I think the more
Or
information we have,
Middletown.
the better. So I would be supportive of a motion. Well, do I need to actually make a motion? Okay. I would like to motion to reopen the public hearing and to receive alternative plans on the D.R. Horton Hill development.
Second.
For June 7th,
Or
not
June
tonight.
7th. Or June 7th.
yeah.
So,
Thank you.
it's quick. She works fast.
I think we had a second from you.
Second.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Gain, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Abstain.
Mr. Muterspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Okay, the third item on the city manager's report is to give you a report on the fire station financing, and Nathan K. Hall will give that report.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, members of council, staff want to take the opportunity tonight to telegraph to you our intention to present at the June 7th meeting an emergency piece of legislation related to the borrowing authorization for the fire station, for the new fire stations. We have been working, and Samantha and I and others have been working with bond counsel and our municipal advisor, and we will be in a position to be able to present a bond ordinance for your consideration, and just wanted to inform council that it will be a staff's request that you consider passing it as an emergency measure so that it can take effect immediately upon passage, so that we can price the bonds and lock them in before we witnessed another one or two more Federal Reserve rate hikes to the betterment of all the taxpayers that'll be paying on this levy. So just wanted to communicate that to all of you that was our intention for the June 7th meeting.
If there's a need to call a special meeting to do that, I think we'd probably all be okay with that if you saw something before the end of the month, if there was something coming in June.
Yeah, I mean, we have some upfront back, or what I'll say back of the house work to do with bond counsel and the like, but we will definitely be ready the first week there of June to present that to you, but wanted to, as preemptively as possible, telegraph that was staff's intention to put that on the agenda.
Any other city manager report comment?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Consent agenda. Ms. Skank, will you please present that for us?
Ms. Skank, before you do that, could we move item C to the motion agenda, please?
Do I need someone else to second that, or just, is that enough?
I'll second.
Just want to be sure we do it right. Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
For your consideration tonight on the consent agenda, we have to receive and file the Board of Zoning Appeals minutes from March the 2nd. March the 2nd, 2022, and to approve the final record plat for Innovation Way.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
On the motion agenda item, we have to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Municipal and Contractors Ceiling Product Incorporated to conduct concrete, I can't say it. I'm gonna start over. Authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Municipal and Contractors Ceiling Product Incorporated to conduct concrete grouting on 2 large diameter sewer segments in an amount not to exceed $195,616.60.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll? Oh, or do you have something to add?
If you have
don't
questions,
usually, but
Nikita
it
is here
looked
to
like you had something.
ask any questions you might have. I don't have anything to add.
Okay, Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
The second item is to confirm the appointment by the mayor of the following members to the Board of Directors of the Middletown Port Authority: Paul Lawley, Nathan K. Hall, and Talbot Moon, with terms expiring December 31st, 2023.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Any comments?
I don't have anything to add.
Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Abstain?
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes. Okay, that brings us to legislation.
Great, thank you, Madam Mayor. The first thing I would like to do is request a motion to waive the charter's requirement of 2 readings prior to passing for a few legislative items tonight. That would be legislative item number 2, ordinance number O-2022-45, item number 6, ordinance number O-2022-48, item number 7, ordinance number O-2022-49, item number 8, ordinance number O-2022-50, item number 9, ordinance number O-2022-51, and item number 15, resolution number R-2022-21.
I move to waive the charter provision requiring reading on 2 separate days and to declare all of the aforementioned ordinances and resolutions an emergency measure and read one time only.
Second?
Just
There
a
was
second.
one more emergency. He was reading from the original agenda. So there's one more item.
And to
it's
include
ordinance
item number
56.
And to include item number 16, ordinance number O-2022-56
Yes.
as an emergency and read one time only.
And I'll still
Thank you. I just didn't have that one.
And is O 2022-44 not anymore?
It was removed, I think, from the legislative agenda tonight. I just found out.
Okay.
Sorry.
16 was?
Yeah.
No.
Number
no.
one.
Number 1 has been withdrawn.
Okay.
Which we didn't know till we got here, so sorry about that.
Sorry.
Just making
It was
sure
a
we
late
didn't miss it.
decision.
Do I need to amend that again?
No, I didn't
No,
say
it
it.
wasn't.
We didn't say it.
In the first one, I just want to make sure we got them all.
All right.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Did we have a second?
We do, yes, Mr. Moon.
Ms. Ganku, please call the roll.
Miss Nenny.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw.
Yes.
Mayor Condrey.
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
All right, let's rock and roll. So we'll jump to legislative item number 2. First tonight, we'll do ordinance number O-2022-45, an ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of bonds in the maximum aggregate principal amount of $3,500,000 for the purpose of paying the costs of A, acquiring and equipping a fire ladder truck for use by the city's fire department, together with all necessary what is it? Appurtenances? Sorry about that. There too. And B, improvements to the municipal wastewater system, including the construction, equipping, and installation of a maintenance building at their water reclamation facility, together with all necessary and related appurtenances there too, and declaring an emergency.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
I don't have anything to add. This is the second reading on the building and the ladder truck.
Any comments or questions from council? Okay, Ms. Ganku, please call the roll.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw.
Yes.
Mayor Condrey.
Yes.
Miss Nenny.
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Okay, item number 3, ordinance number O-2022-46, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to pay each non-union city employee a one-time lump sum payment of premium pay using American Rescue Plan Act funds. This is a second reading.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
Chief, did you want to add anything?
I don't have anything further to add.
Any comments or questions from council? Okay, Ms. Ganku, please call the roll.
Mr. Muederspaw.
Yes.
Mayor Condrey.
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Miss Nenny.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
The next item is resolution number R 2022-19, a resolution authorizing the purchase of real property from Sorg Paper Company for Essity, and this is a second reading.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
This is the basin property. We don't have anything further to add that we've been discussing the last couple of council meetings.
Any questions or comments from council? Okay, Ms. Ganku, please call the roll.
Mayor Condrey.
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Miss Nenny.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw.
Yes.
Item number 5 is ordinance number O-2022-47, an ordinance authorizing a contract with J.W. Devers and Son Incorporated for the purchase of mounted equipment for the three previously purchased international truck chassis, and this is a second reading.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
Nothing further to add.
Comments, questions? Ms. Ganku, please call the roll.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Miss Nenny.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw.
Yes.
Mayor Condrey.
Yes.
Next on the agenda is ordinance number O-2022-48, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to apply for, accept, and enter into a water pollution control loan fund agreement with the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency and the Ohio Water Development Authority for the design and construction of the downtown CSO storage basin and declaring an emergency.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
Chief?
This is to apply for the loan for the basin project itself and sign for the project rates.
Any comments or questions from anyone on it? Okay, Ms. Ganku, please call the roll.
Miss Nenny.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw.
Yes.
Mayor Condrey.
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Item number 7 is ordinance number O-2022-49, an ordinance authorizing a collective bargaining agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge number 36 for the patrol officers for the years November 1st, 2021 through October 31st, 2024, and declaring an emergency.
So moved for adoption.
Second?
Chief?
Okay, actually, what I'm going to go over, the information here will actually cover the next 3 pieces of legislation. I can repeat anything if it is needed, but this contract with our members of the collective bargaining group of the police department is a 3-year contract that will be retroactive back to November 1st of 2021 and will go until October 31st of 2024. I'll highlight the main things of the contract. First thing this does is it takes the 12 steps of proceeding through the pay steps from 12 steps to 6 steps. It offers the patrol officers a 3% across the board hike, so 3%, 3%, 3% for each year. It offers the patrol officers a lump sum bonus of 2% each year, and it adds a pay range for cadets. Additionally, it will allow for a premium pay out of the ARPA funds for $3,000. In our sergeant and lieutenant ranks, once again, it'll allow for a 2%, 3%, and a 3.25% across the board pay hike, and it will allow for $2,496 in premium pay out of the ARPA funds, and the sergeants and the lieutenants will receive a lump sum bonus of 2% each year. Additionally, this contract will change the longevity pays. It will add years 7 through 9 at 0.75%, years 10 through 14 to 1.5%, years 15 to 19, 2.5%, and years 20 to 24 of 3.5%. Each of those years increased by 0.5% for that particular year. It also allows for a detective call-out pay stipend of $1,200 per year, and it increases the pay for field training officers, those officers who are assigned to a brand new officer out on the streets. They are assigned to that field training officer, and their pay goes, the additional pay they receive for that goes from $2.50 an hour to $3 per hour while performing the duties of a field training supervisor. It also raises the K-9 allowance, and it increases it from $5 a day to $7 per day. Those are the highlights of the contract. Of course, in your packets, you receive the detail of the entire contract. Any questions?
I just want to say I'm so happy that we got rid of the 12 steps. It's one of
Yes.
the worst things that we ever did as a city, ever. I mean, for the public who
Yeah.
doesn't know, that means it takes 12 steps to get to top pay, and that's unheard of in any business like that. So I'm really happy that you guys got that done. That's awesome. And for those out in the public or watching who hear all these raises and stuff and think it's monumentally huge, it's not. Our staff in our city, you guys are doing a great job, but they're still vastly underpaid, everybody in this building, and Public Works, Police, Fire, IT, everybody. So this is a great start, and appreciate you guys getting it done. It's good to see.
Thank you.
Step in the right direction.
Absolutely. That's important.
I think in any organization, attracting and retaining good employees is paramount. And I think what this does is get us
It does.
in the right direction and as far as
Yes.
that goes. So.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muerspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Okay, item number 8, ordinance number O 2022-50, an ordinance authorizing a collective bargaining agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge number 36. This is for the sergeants and lieutenants for the years November 1, 2021 through October 31, 2024, and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Anything to add on this one, Chief?
No, I don't have any. I'm sorry, I was reading. I have nothing. Everything was
Sounds good.
in the prior.
Any other
Group.
comments or questions on this one? Okay, Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Muterspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Miss Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Number 9 is ordinance number O 2022-51, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into memorandums of understanding for FOP Lodge 36, patrol officers and sergeants and lieutenants for the payment of a premium pay using American Rescue Plan Act funds and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption.
Second.
No further comments?
Okay, Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Miss Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muterspaw,
Yes.
Item number 10 tonight is ordinance number O 2022-52, an ordinance authorizing a contract with Lutz Construction Management Company for the police locker room remodel and declaring an emergency. There is no action requested on this until June 7th, 2022 meeting.
Chief?
Yeah. The couple things here. First of all, we've been discussing this for a better part of the last year, and I think it's time we need to get moving on this. Unfortunately, we see some initial estimates of $350,000. However, when it went out to RFP, you can see the best price we got was the $430,000. Now, secondly, we had some confusion as to the fund that this would be taken out of. There's some, is it supposed to come out of the ARPA funds, or is it supposed to come out of the general fund with the surplus budget? I think we have some time, and I've talked with Samantha Zimmerman. What I think we may do is at next council meeting, come back and probably move to take this out of the general fund, make an appropriation out of the general fund for the surplus, well, what we thought was the surplus funds and what we feel will be there.
So lost revenue as opposed to
Yes.
ARPA.
No.
No?
Because we
Yes.
talked about that.
I'm sorry, maybe I didn't hear you
I
correctly.
think you mean the deferred capital, just out of the general fund, not.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We kind of talked about it,
Yes.
and I don't know that I know the answer, so I appreciate that you're taking some time to think about it. Is it, the deferred capital, the general fund, really we can just use that on capital maintenance according to legislation, but ARPA's a little bit broader, although there's the timeline, so there's kind of pluses and minuses to both sides, and just kind of giving it a minute to.
Yeah, once again, we ran this by legal, and they gave us an opinion that it could come out of the ARPA funds. Samantha, did you have anything to add? I know you sent me a late email, but I covered it. Okay.
It was originally planned to come out of ARPA.
It was, and then it changed end of last year, and remember at the strategic retreat, he put it in the deferred maintenance with all the parks and all that other stuff.
I didn't really
I don't
think
remember
about the
that. I
fact
don't
that,
remember that either.
yeah, it was in that
I-
part of the
That's why I
briefing.
couldn't remember if it was the deferred.
And I don't have a strong feeling, I just appreciate that we're kind of like analyzing like which one is the better way to
Deferred
do it.
capital, though, we don't have to use that for capital improvements, right? That's just what we all.
Post-audit, I guess it's a legal question.
I think that the audit would have issues with that, but
Right.
we didn't. I think we only looked into whether it was a permitted use under ARPA, not under the deferred capital fund. So we can certainly do that.
I think your question is, do we have to use
Yeah.
our post-audit revenues above 20% for deferred capital?
Yes, that is my question. Because one of the things that was discussed as we do our salary study is, do we rebudget, and that potentially some of that over 20% needs to be reallocated in future, and maybe that's future budgets from there on out, but for salary increases, should we deem them necessary? I think that was just
Right.
one of the thoughts on the
Correct.
over 20% and where does that go? So I just want to make sure we're thinking about
That's a good
that.
point. Yep.
My understanding was it was probably just capital maintenance, and that's why I was kind of thinking, which is the more flexible, you know, which one do you want to keep? So, appreciate you thinking about it a little bit more.
Yep.
I'll support whichever staff thinks makes the most sense on that.
And do we have I didn't see, do we have a timeline on this, when they would start
Chief.
construction on this and?
Do you have a timeline on when this would be started?
They said as soon as the bid's awarded, they would start immediately. It's about a 4-month project.
Yeah,
So once it's approved and stuff, they're ready to start going. But again, it's all based on supplies and equipment and lockers and everything else.
yeah, that was really sort of where I was going with that, is how long is it gonna take to get these ordered in, and does, you know, what would be a 4-month?
They're willing to start. They've talked to the locker company, but supplies are so delayed. They're saying at least 4-month project, so it could go longer. So
I'm curious if that is if that's what factors into the increase in what we had originally thought in price. Is that demand, is that the supplies that are costing more? Is this because the project is going to
I think
take
it's a little
longer
bit of
because
both.
Supplies?
Yeah.
I think it's supply and just overall costs are going up. The bids we received were in '21, and then we had them come out this year. So I just think over that time frame, inflation's gone up, and I think costs in general are going up. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
Okay. I just wanted everyone to be able to sort of understand how that budgeted number took
Yeah.
such a hike.
So,
Okay. Thank you.
yep.
And I just want to step back on, Mayor, on your comment on using future percentages over 20% on salaries, because I'm trying to rack my brain and remember that conversation. I think the concern was, and the thought was, we would just do it for capital maintenance because those are one-time dollars, whereas the raises are going to compound every year and continue to compound. And what's the concern about using wisdom of one-time dollars to compound annual raises? So
Yeah,
just
Correct.
yeah, and I think it's more of our budgeting for the next fiscal year that we need to look at that, right? Is that,
I agree with both those. I mean, these are one-time funds that we're gonna have. Who knows if we have them in the future, but projections are good, right? But we have to use this on something for now as far as infrastructure, and we can adjust pay later and more jobs and those types of things.
That's all I have on that. We'll come back.
I just like to
June
ask the
7th,
police to stop adding hot tubs to the plan. It's really expensive.
Yeah.
In his office.
Well, you know, I was thinking if you want to donate that to the fire stations, we'd accept that.
you're the city manager now.
So you're gonna get his old hot tub, or?
Everybody loves a fire.
There are no hot tubs.
Could you imagine if I built fire stations and didn't support redoing the locker room? I'd visit our jail, I guess.
Okay, with
I
that,
think we're ready to move
we'll
on.
move to
yeah.
item 11.
He started this.
I know, I know.
Ordinance number O 2022-53, an ordinance authorizing the execution of a First Amendment to the cooperative agreement between the City of Middletown, Ohio, the Warren County Port Authority, Sawyer's Mill Project 1 LLC, and the Huntington National Bank as trustee, approving and authorizing related matters and declaring an emergency, but again, no action is requested until June 7, 2022.
Chief.
Nathan.
Mayor, members of council, so before you for consideration at our next meeting is an amendment to the cooperative agreement between the city and the Warren County Port Authority related to the Sawyer Mill residential development. As council will recall, that development is located within a tax increment financing district, and the Warren County Port Authority issued development bonds on behalf of the project to the benefit of the developer and the city in the recent past. And through a cooperative agreement between the city and the Port Authority, the city has agreed, and rightfully so, that as TIF payments are collected and remitted to the city by the county auditor, that then those proceeds would then be then transferred to the Port Authority for service of the debt that they issued. This arrangement was in place because a Port Authority cannot create a TIF district and receive those funds, and so that was the mechanism by which those bonds were securitized. The original agreement between the city and the Port Authority and the developer envisioned that there could be subsequent issuances of debt as the project moved into subsequent phases. And so that's where we are today. The developer is requesting permission and TIF proceeds in the future to go towards additional phases of that development as it builds out. And so there is a need for your consideration of an amendment to that cooperative agreement to memorialize that arrangement between the city and the Port Authority. What is important to note in this amendment to the cooperative agreement that the general business terms between the city and the Port Authority remain unchanged. The city is only required to be a pass-through entity of these TIF dollars, and so if there is any type of credit event, substantive non-payment of property taxes by certain parcels there or whatnot, that is a credit risk of the Port Authority, not the city of Middletown. And so with that, obviously everyone's eyeing the interest rate markets. The Port Authority is desirous of issuing their next series of bonds here in the not so distant future. And so they've requested the city its consideration of passing this as an emergency measure, but obviously wanted to put that on your radar screen tonight for you folks to then weigh in ultimately on the 7th of June.
So that would be a second reading emergency request.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Item number 12 is ordinance number O-2022-54, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with Flock Group Incorporated for the purchase of software and hardware for automatic license plate detection. This is a first reading.
This is to purchase the flock cameras that we've discussed the last couple council meetings. The cost is actually $74,100. However, as you'll see later, if we accept the $33,000 grant, that $33,000 of that will go towards the $74,000, and then we have it within the police budget to use the rest of the money to purchase the cameras.
Where's the information being stored? And how long does it stay on there?
The information stored in the cloud system through Flock camera system. We can download them to the MDT in the cruiser, and then we can also have them downloaded to the officer's cell phone. It stays for 30 days. It's not a video. It's a snapshot of the license plate. Several other agencies, Franklin, Troy, Vandalia, Springboro, several other agencies are using this. This is a way for us to get more eyes out there, get more data that we can use, especially if detectives have a suspect vehicle. For example, here recently we had an orange truck taking a bunch of construction 2x4s and equipment. All we had was a description of an orange truck. We can put an orange truck in there. It's going to give us a list of all the orange vehicles that have gone through the intersection. Now we have a license plate. Now we have a suspect to go with that. Franklin has it. They've had very good success. I just left the Chiefs Conference this past week and talking to several other agencies, Cleveland, Vandalia. They've also had great success with the system, just assisting not only detectives, Amber Alerts, missing individuals, adults. It's just a great tool. It's a snapshot. It's not a video. Everything's purged after 30 days.
Great to use technology where we can't always have bodies in place. But I guess my follow-up question is so everything is baked into that price, that 20, whatever it was, that we're not also incurring fees for
it's the
storage and maintenance?
No, so it'd be 60. I think it's 76,000 for the initial setup and everything. We put in a grant for 33,000. I thought 12 cameras were going to get it. Didn't realize one camera only covers 2 lanes, so we would have to have more cameras. So I put money in my budget this year. IT did too. So we have the cost. The cost would be 65,000 to maintain it on a yearly. And I do have that already in my budget from the Motorola radios that we have just finished purchasing. So I just think this gives the officers another tool, especially detectives, if they have a vehicle, and gives our patrol officers immediate information on felony warrants, missing people, anything coming into our city or leaving, we would have that information.
is the information shareable between jurisdictions and?
That's another thing too. If we do go with Flock, which is a nice system, then we can interchange with Franklin, Montgomery County, Vandalia. So if we happen to be looking for a vehicle, we can pull up their information too and see if that individual has been in that city too. So it's networking all these other departments that have it. It's just another tool.
You see it kind of taking off throughout the region? I mean, if you see lots of departments get on this, that's going to be.
Yeah. We were at the Chiefs Conference. I know Fairfield Township's also looking, Monroe's looking, Warren County's looking. So I really look for this to expand. Franklin's had great success with stolen cars, gas drive-off, and they were able to apprehend a pharmacy individual breaking into pharmacies too, just based off of this system. So I think it's going to expand, yes.
Are there other systems out there that are similar to this that maybe other departments are using, or is this pretty much the one?
There is other license plate readers. We've had them where they've been on the car when Chief Meterspall was there. I believe he was deputy chief, but it never worked as well. It was down more than it was running. Flock system, the benefit of this is it integrates all the other departments. So if we get the Flock system, then we can use Franklin's information, Dayton's information, everybody else's, so we can share that information. And a lot of our times our, individuals end up going to Dayton or going to other community.
So some of the alternatives don't have the same.
Yeah, some of them we can't share that information if we're not part of the same network.
And then I also saw that it's solar powered.
Yes.
But there shouldn't be any kind of interruptions.
Well, you can run it solar, or you can tie in, talking to Scott Tadish and talking to the street department, we can tie into a lot of the the lines up, so we can actually hardwire them too, and also have the advantage of the solar too. So it gives us the benefit of both.
This is, to me, it's a no. I wish we could vote on it tonight, because like Chief Burke said, I mean, we had a homicide on New Year's Eve 5 years ago, and we had dark SUV was all we was given. And if we would have had these, we'd have had a license plate. And it's a cold case to this day, because I mean that would have been great to have. So I think it's great.
There's a lot of advantages. This is just something that, like I said, technology's out there. We're starting, as law enforcement, catching up with technology. I had a flip phone forever, so technology's definitely catching up.
You still have the flip phone, don't you?
I would have one still if I wasn't where I'm at.
And he drives an orange truck. Who commits a crime in an orange truck?
Is there price breaks for additional cameras to the point where we could look at some sort of collective purchasing with other local cities that are looking to get into this and save any money?
I can check with them, but I know like each city has their own contract. The contract was sent to the law department. They use that same contract in several other cities, so it's been going over. But I can check with them to see if there's a larger purchase, because I know Fairfield Township's starting to look at them, and so is Warren County.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if, we can tell them, hey, we'll nudge a few other cities if you'll give us a cheaper rate.
Yeah,
I'm not ashamed.
Yeah, I can talk to them about that.
Cool. I love it. I think it's great. Thanks for looking into it.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Great. Item number 13 is ordinance number O-2022-55, an ordinance amending section 250.24 for entry-level positions of the police and fire divisions, and section 250.241, promotions for the police and fire divisions of the codified ordinances. This is a first reading.
Okay, this only affects the Division of Police, and there's two changes they want to make to the civil service ordinance, and that would be to take the age from 35 to 41 and the maximum age. And what that does for them, it allows them to capture those individuals who might be coming out of military service starting at the age of 36, and it allows them to get some maybe more mature officers who have experience that would be beneficial to the city, to the Division of Police. The other change is to clean up some language that basically states that the sergeant's seniority points will be added after they score at least a 70% on the assessment center. So that way, when they score the written exam and the assessment center, they have to have a score on both of at least 70% to proceed, and then the seniority points will be added.
I'm very supportive of the age adjustment. I think it's a great idea, especially when we're hurting for recruiting and we're missing out on some really good opportunities for hiring. So, good work.
Great. Item number 14 is resolution number R 2022-20, a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept a grant from the state of Ohio's Violent Crime Reduction Grant Program. This is a first reading.
And this is to accept the grant for the flock cameras of $33,000.
Item number 15 is resolution number R 2022-21, a resolution appointing initial Region 14 representative and alternate representative to the One Ohio Recovery Foundation Incorporated Board and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Okay, Mayor and City Council, this is for us to do a resolution to the One Ohio Recovery Foundation where we support the appointment of 2 representatives that gets us a stronger standing to receive better proportionate opioid dollars. Mayor and Councilman Farrell met with Hamilton's mayor and vice mayor and made us aware of the way it was being designed, basically spread Region 14 across 7 counties and essentially spread it equally. Well, Hamilton Middletown kind of feels that we're affected a little bit more disproportionately with and should receive better opioid funding than an area that might not have been affected much by the opioid crisis. You have anything to add?
No, I mean, I want to give Mayor Moeller from Hamilton a big shout out on this one. He really is spearheading this effort regionally to try to make this more proportionate to the impact that the opioid crisis has had on our Region 14. And there's a lot of controversy on how to get all this set up with the settlement dollars. So I'm grateful that he noticed this and is really speaking out about it. So that was the first effort from the Hamilton Middletown task force that we've regenerated is seeing itself in its works tonight in emergency legislation. I think that will help a lot.
What do we know about these 2 folks, if anything? I guess they come recommended by Hamilton.
And it's a temporary. This is only to hold a place for this. It's not a permanent, from what I understand, situation. Did you have something?
Yeah, it's been a learning experience because I think every county is handling it different, even within our region, on how to get folks. So not to bore you with too many details, but when the state signed the memorandum of understanding of part of the One Ohio, the litigation, it required each region to create its own governance structure, but there was no instructions on how to do that. So a few different county commissioners have really kind of spearheaded this in our region to scramble together because they got a letter from the governor about 3 weeks ago saying we need someone on the board. So the first meeting of the state board was yesterday, and there's been a lot of coverage in the news about that. And we're not in fear of losing out on any money or anything like that, but each county, I think, is really trying to drive in and figure out what's best for the entire region, understanding, obviously, that some areas have been hit harder than others. To the question of the 2 individuals, I believe 3 individuals kind of submitted their resumes as interested in this position. There was a different scoring process and these were the 2 that kind of got selected. So they were, you guys, I think, are going to be the second municipality in the region to approve this, or approve these individuals, but it sounds to me like other counties and municipalities will be following in short order to do the same thing over the next.
Coming out of our region or out of our county? Sorry, this came late.
Yeah, no. I believe
Question.
The one, I think the actual appointee is from 3 smaller counties. I think Clark County is the one that I remember, which is up near Springfield, obviously. This is only a 90-day appointment just because it was a last minute scramble, I think, to make sure that we had a representative from our region at the meeting yesterday. And again, so that's they're not permanent, as the mayor said. They're really there just to give us a seat at the table for that initial meeting. And then over presumably the next 90 days or so, we'll have more structure and input from community leaders throughout the region.
And Cindy Carpenter is the one spearheading it for Butler County.
Yep, and Shannon Jones is in Warren County leading. I talked with her for about a half hour this afternoon about this issue specifically. So
Thank you very much for all the coordination and work on this. I know
There's a lot of people involved.
yeah. I know Fairfield's looking to do the same. So.
there's a lot of money involved too. So I think that's why
Yeah.
we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and doing it correctly.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments or questions on it? Okay, Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muterspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey.
Yes.
Great. Our final agenda item tonight is legislative item is number 16, ordinance number O-2022-56, an ordinance authorizing funding for Community Center Partners, LLC, to move forward with Phase 2 of the development consulting services related to the Town Mall Galleria redevelopment project and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption.
Council, this is the authorizing this is for authorizing Phase 2 with the Community Center Partners for the Town Mall redevelopment area. If you recall, on January 18th, 2022, Phase 1, City Council appropriated $211,500 for Phase 1. $5,000 of that was into the reimbursable expenses, which I'll talk a little bit about here in a second. What was done in Phase 1? In Phase 1, a market feasibility study was done, asking questions such as, would the project be supported by sufficient market demand? It also provided preliminary architectural drawings. It assured cohesiveness with the groups and the overall master plan of the project. There's been a significant amount of market research completed, including discussion with potential tenants. A large part was exploration of various market streams that would be created. All of this was done to determine that the operations of a sports and entertainment venue will generate enough revenue to support the development of such a project. The final report of Phase 1 is being prepared, and that all partners agree that the results are strong enough to move on to Phase 2. So the question may become why. Well, we feel there's an abundance of demand for a hockey and multi-use facility. We feel there is more than enough market demand to support ancillary development, such as a hotel, residential, commercial, and some office space retail, such as medical. The study showed that it may not have significant demands yet for concerts, but other events coupled with concerts would absolutely be in the offering and would enhance the revenue generation of the project. What does Phase 2 do? Phase 2 gets into the details of the project. It looks at more detailed architectural drawings of the facility. It investigates the real estate acquisition possibilities and probabilities. The team gets into the framework of how it gets financed. They look at what the big picture is, what the development details will look like. Phase 2 of the project has a not-to-exceed budget of $263,500, of which the city of Middletown is responsible for $118,575. So the $263,500, and we had an overspend in the reimbursable expenses from Phase 1 of $17,695. So we have added $20,000 to the reimbursable expenses, and this totals $301,000, $195 to the project. Consequently, since we are the contracting party, we have the responsibility to cover the expenses. However, our Warren County partners have committed their part of the $301,000, and therefore that's why our share of it will be $118,575. With that, I cannot thank Community Center partners, Warren County Economic Development, Lee and his team from CCP, Martin Russell and his team from Warren County Economic Development and the Warren County Port Authority enough. Their support and leadership in this project, and some of our council members. And I think this shows that this is really only the beginning of a fantastic relationship with Warren County. With that said, it is the recommendation of the city manager, the team that's been working on this, for council to appropriate sufficient funds to move forward with phase 2 of the development consulting agreement with Community Center partners.
I'm excited. I think the work so far has been good. I can actually see results from it, which is nice for a feasibility study. And I also wanted to thank, Councilmember Moon is helping to push the timeline forward to keep us going, and I thank you for that effort.
I can say this is probably the most exciting project I've had the opportunity to read and look at since I've come here. I will tell you this, that when this comes to fruition, the area out there in the town mall, you won't recognize it, because when this goes, that whole area out there, I guarantee you, will just bloom and blossom, and this will be one of the best things to ever happen to Middletown in a long, long time.
Thank you. Any more comments or questions on this one?
Excited. Excited. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It is. Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Ganku, please call the roll.
Ms. Denny.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Muterspaw.
Yes.
Mayor Condrey.
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
That should bring us to new business, unless there's more ordinances hiding than I didn't realize were there.
I found out tonight, if it wasn't for the police department and public works, we wouldn't have to have a council meeting. I'm gonna have to talk to that fire chief. He's got to get some
Yeah.
stuff on here.
Idea. Do we have any new business items this evening?
I think, Mayor, when we met with the mayor and vice mayor of Hamilton, we asked them what their key to success over the last few years has really been in building, their not just new business, but their community. And one of the things that they mentioned was, I think it's 17 Strong, is that what it is? Their community neighborhood program that they have. And they said that the people have built it back as much as their employees have. Obviously, they pay their employees well and try to continue to retain and bring new people in, but we have to get our community involved. We have to break down the barrier for his council and staff, I think, and get the people more involved. And so some sort of, I don't know if we can use ARPA funds towards something that kind of just reinvest back into the community, to where we can have more community cleanups and invest in maybe ran down houses, help people in the neighborhoods. I think it's something we need, and we need to have the people invested in this community if we're going to continue to grow.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was, I'm not ashamed to copy something that works in the slightest. Right. So I would love to look into that, in Middletown, how we can kind of orient ourselves into different neighborhoods and kind of create a similar program. I think would be really, really beneficial.
I think we have this really valuable asset in the Parks Master Plan and all of the work that went into that, and identifying sort of our community parks and all the assets that they have to offer. And I think that our parks could be a really great opportunity for us to bring people together. So I would put that out there. And then also, as part of that discussion, we did budget some ARPA money for general cleanup. We haven't really talked about how that's going to be spent or in what ways. And so I think that is definitely a part of this conversation, is, with the department heads, how do we think that we can best spend that money to to maybe utilize it to, to meet those goals.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'd love to see it not just be like a one-time ARPA fund, but something that we could reinvest into every single year.
Yep.
Yeah,
Or if it seeded a program.
I
Yeah.
think, Councilmember Farrell had mentioned an idea where you give each of these community groups a certain amount of funds to say, hey, use this how you want to help beautify your neighborhood in whatever fashion that is. If that's, getting a dumpster and getting rid of stuff, great. If that's spending it on planting some trees or whatever that
Park
might
benches.
be, and empower our neighborhoods to improve themselves and have actually a decision in the matter too, which I think is exciting.
I meet every 2 weeks with Development Services, and I think we meet tomorrow, and we'll discuss some of those things tomorrow.
Great.
It's funny, I think the Vice Mayor, Ryan, said you give somebody $5,000, you won't believe what they can do with $5,000 if they feel like they're personally invested in it.
Yeah.
I bet. I'm in.
I think cleaning up those, just while you're still on that note, cleaning up our neighborhoods and our parks, I think speaks to what Kenzie was talking about earlier about Smith Park and that property. And that property Essity owns the property that they're talking about, correct? Have we ever looked into what we could do would that piece of property ever be for sale? Like, how could we clean that up? I don't know what we've ever done to look into that, but I would be curious to know why that property still sits the way it does and, why the city is the one that's always cleaning it up.
Yeah, I'll look into it. Yeah, I don't know the history and what we've done, but
I don't either.
I'll definitely look into it.
I think the moral is just we have to start pumping some ARPA funds and general budget money into this city and clean it up, beautify it. I know we've been working at it for a long time now, so.
When you've got those areas that continue to be troublesome areas and that sort of thing, how do we target those areas in a pointed way?
Yep.
So speaking of another way to beautify our city in a non-visible manner, I was hoping to gauge council's interest on smart parks. So adding fiber and connectivity to Smith Park, Lefferson, maybe even Goldman, should that end up being a baseball, central. I know other parks in the area are doing it, Warren County Sports Complex, and I fear we're going to start losing some of the amazing tournaments and events that we have at our own parks that are really the cornerstone for our visitors if we don't start doing it. And I think there's a positive to it, but there's also if we don't, I think we're going to start to see that we're falling behind the curve on that. I know Dave Pierce with the soccer group is pushing that. He's done a lot of research on it and found some really good data and some information and pricing. So I just wanted to gauge council's interest on that, and if that's something, maybe there's a presentation someone might be able to give to loop
I think if
council
he's got
in.
that information and wants to bring that to park board, that would be a really great place to start. I mean, at least have that conversation with those folks and see how that works in conjunction with the parks master plan. And I'm curious if that was I can't remember when we were going through all of the improvements that were slated for each of the parks, if that kind of technology was included. I don't think that it was, but
The Lefferson Park is the pickleball tournament could have used it a lot of times over and have had requests for fiber specifically, and I'm not sure if this is a fiber request, but I know they could use it and it would help a lot with their tournament. So
And it helped them a lot this past weekend. Troy Adderton and IT department did a lot of things to help them stream their tournament, and it went really well. So that's one thing we really need to look at is if we want to keep some of these big things like the Balloon Fest, the soccer tournaments, lacrosse tournaments, the pickleball tournaments, we need to seriously look at venturing into Wi-Fi in our parks and the ability to do the technologically advanced things that would make those parks attractive. So we'll get with the park boards, and then I don't know if we'll be ready to make a presentation June 7th.
you'll be at that meeting, correct? At the next park board meeting?
I got to cook.
Yeah, you're cooking us hot dogs.
I told them next park board meeting, I'll bring a grill and hot dogs and hamburgers and cook, and I didn't think they'd take me serious. Burke, Snively. Yes, so I will be at that meeting, and I'll be
Speaking of
grilling
hot
out
dogs
for the
and
park
stuff, those
board members.
vendors, they probably all use Wi-Fi
Yep.
mobile apps for their pay and all of that, you know, so I can imagine that that would be really beneficial to.
And yeah, and there's, talking with Dave Pierce, there's so much we can do actually to, it's a steep upfront cost, like just for Smith Park, you're talking like $125,000. However, there are revenue streams to capture off the advertising and the Wi-Fi and information.
Maybe he would join us at our cookout.
I would say when
I'll invite him.
when we looked at it 4 or 5 years ago with Cincinnati Bell, I mean, the vision was
Yes.
always to push it into Smith
Into the
Park, and I think
Right.
it was kind of designed to continue along that path. So I don't know if it's Cincinnati Bell or, you know, I don't know how all that works, but maybe a work session would be better, because that's going to really be a very interactive conversation with whoever's
would be
presenting.
Yeah, I'll share with you the information we have so far that Dave Pierce has put together. And I think that'll give you just enough information to say, hey, let's move forward on this, investigating what the long-term plan is.
I don't think 125,000 is a lot when you consider how much money will be pumped into our economy and our businesses and our,
Revenue opportunity.
yeah, I mean, it's,
Yeah, and a large part of it, as we said, might be recoverable too. So you're right.
it's awesome.
Any other new business items? Okay, then we have a request to move to executive session under the authority of ORC 121.22G1 to consider the appointment or dismissal of a public official. Do we have a motion to move to executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muederswall?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Ms. Nemi?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
And following executive session, we will dismiss until our next meeting, June 7th, here in council chambers at 17:30. We'll expect some sort of a neighborhood meeting with D.R. Horton, I believe, in the meantime, that citizens may want to attend. Until then, blue skies over Middletown.
Sorry about that.